Rabbi Abadie is at present the Senior Rabbi of the Jewish Council of the Emirates. He is the co-president of Justice for Jews from Arab countries. Dr. Abadie is a founding rabbi and spiritual leader of the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue and the founder and rabbinic advisor of the Moses Safra Center in Manhattan. He is a director and professor at the Jacob A. Safra Institute of Sephardic Studies at Yeshiva University. He is a scholar and colleague teacher of Sephardic Judaism, history, philosophy, and comparative traditional law. Dr. Abadie was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and grew up in Mexico City. He moved to the United States to attend college and university, and later became a naturalized United States citizen. His family is a long and distinguished rabbinical lineage dating back to 15th century in Spain and France. He has been interviewed by several notable news programs, including Fox News, CNN and ABC News, BBC, Russian TV Arabic, Spanish radio, CCTV and Telemundo, America TV and others. He received the Orden del Mérito Civil with the title of Excellentissimo, the highest civil decoration by His Majesty King Juan Carlos I of Spain. He is honored to be following in the footsteps of the greatest Jewish scholar and philosopher Moses Maimonides, who was both a rabbi and a physician. He is a medical gastroenterologist who examines almost 1,000 medical cases every year. Dr. Abadie has been married to his wife for 37 years. This program is brought to you by Prolific Solutions, Samuel Foundations. Joining me today on the Pioneer TV show, Rabbi Dr. Abadie. He's Senior Rabbi, Jewish Council of the Emirates. Good evening.
Good evening, Maria.
I want to ask you first, as I know you were born in Lebanon, how was Lebanon for you in your childhood, and how was the Arabic very important for you and your family?
Lebanon was beautiful when I was living there. It was, the late 60s, early 70s, in which Lebanon was known as the Switzerland of the Middle East and Beirut as the Paris of the Middle East. It was kind of the French Riviera, as you know, entertainment, restaurants, beaches, bars. I was young, but I remember my older siblings enjoyed that life very, very much.
Can you tell us about the Jewish heritage in Lebanon, especially?
Well, the Jewish heritage in Lebanon really dates back at least 3,000 years from the time of King David. The kingdom of David and his son, King Solomon, and also the relationship between Lebanon and the king of Tyre and King Solomon was very, very solid. They were allies. In fact, King of Tyre, he really helped build the temple with the cedars from Lebanon. So there was a great commercial, great diplomatic and great political alliance between Lebanon at that time, 3,000 years ago, and the Davidic kingdom of David and Solomon. So the presence of Jews there has been there for thousands of years. And of course, throughout the ages went up and down, depending on who was the conquering empire at that time. But Lebanon and Syria were known to be two countries in which the Jewish presence dates back at least 3,000 years.
Talking about these days, you are a rabbi living in the United Arab Emirates. Can you tell us what are your duties and what is your job exactly?
Well, I have what's called an official job. I have an unofficial job. So, of course, the official job is I was brought here by the community with the blessings and the consent of the government that I should build up the Jewish community. There was a small Jewish community here in the UAE, very, very small, under the radar, prior to the Abraham Accord. And once the Abraham Accord took place, the government wanted the community to register as a community of faith, as an official religion recognized in the UAE. And so they needed a religious leader. I had visited the UAE twice, three years ago. I met with His Highness Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. I had met with Sheikh Nahyan, who's the Minister of Finance, a few other people from the government. And I had kept in touch with them actually for several years when I was in New York. And so when the idea came, my name came about, and I was invited to come to really build the Jewish community, the infrastructure of a Jewish community, and all the institutions that are required for a community to grow and thrive.
How?
I think they thought that I would be the right candidate because, as you know, I was born in Lebanon. I speak Arabic.
Yeah.
I converse in Arabic and read and write. And so I carry the Arabic culture, the Middle Eastern culture with me all my life. And so they thought that I would be the right person in the right place to kind of revive the Jewish life in Arab countries and in the Middle East and the region.
How do you see the Jewish life progressing in the Gulf, and how about the relationship between them and the Islam or other confessions?
Right. So when I arrived here a year and a half ago, I realized that there are Jews living actually in all the 6 GCC countries, the Gulf Cooperation Council. And a very old community actually existed in Bahrain and still exists for over 140 years. And so I had met the community of Bahrain from before in the United States. So one of the representatives who was the ambassador in the United States. And we came to the realization that we need to create an association to help Jewish communities in the Gulf or Jewish individuals that live in the countries in the Gulf for whatever ritual, spiritual enrichment, cultural, and so we created the Association of Gulf Jewish Communities, of which I'm the rabbi of that association. And for now, a year and a few months since we established it, we have really served the Jewish community in Bahrain and the Jewish individuals living in all the other 6 GCC countries, including Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, and Kuwait.
Yeah, and as I know, every Friday you do the pre-Shabbat Zoom. Is it a prayer with all the Jewish community living in the 6 GCC countries? So what is the purpose of this Zoom meeting?
Well, so the Zoom meeting was actually created during the pandemic, where we could not meet in the synagogue or in a house of worship. And so we said to keep in touch with the community, we have this Zoom session. Now, the Zoom is really done before the Sabbath begins. As you know, on Sabbath, we do not use electricity or electronics. And so we do it an hour and a half before the Sabbath begin, where we gather all the people from around the Gulf area. And we do some prayers, but we also have a guest speaker. I speak about myself. I speak about the Torah portion, and we have guest speaker from interesting organizations around the world. Actually, our audience includes much more than the Jews living in the Gulf. We have from the United States, we have from Australia, we have from Europe, we have from South Africa, we have from all over the world that they now tune into this Zoom session as they enjoy really keeping in touch with the community. And so, yes, we have prayers, we have singing, we have speeches, we introduce new organizations and what they're doing in the world.
Can you tell us more about the Passover, how it's celebrated in the Arab region, different than Europe or other countries?
Well, first, as you know, Passover celebrates the freedom and liberation of our ancestors who were enslaved in ancient Egypt 3,400 years ago. And they were redeemed and saved during this era of the year, this time of the year. And it's called Passover, as traditionally God passed over the homes of the Jews living there and spared them from the plagues that Egypt at that time suffered, according to our tradition and the Bible. And so what happened was we celebrate that holiday for 7-8 days. But we also celebrated by eating what's known as the masa. The masa is the hard cracker type of a bread, in remembrance of the dough that our ancestors baked, and they did not have time to let it rise. And so they baked it before it rose, and so it was not a fluffy bread, it was a hard cracker type. And so that's what we eat also on Passover. The difference is not much of a difference. All over the world, we celebrate it basically with similar prayers. Of course, each region may have different melodies, but it's the same prayers. Each region and country and may have also different traditions, different way to represent themselves as though they were freed themselves. And that's what Passover means to us, is the idea of liberation from slavery, the idea of determination of a people, of a nation, and also freedom of religion. As after Passover, the Israelites received the Torah from heaven at Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. A political question. Do you think that Israel as a state met all the expectations for the Jews in the world?
Look, no country is perfect. No individual is perfect. No region is perfect. Every country, every individual, every company, they strive for perfection. So I think Israel is one of the few countries in the world that does strive for perfection. And the moment that Israel recognizes a mistake is done, they try to correct it. And that's all what we can expect. We can expect a country that is honest, that is just. And we do think that Israel is such a country. Honest is just. Perfect? No country is perfect. Do we agree with all the policies of Israel? We don't agree with all the policies of any country in the world. Why? Because some countries we agree with, some countries we don't agree with. But all in all, it's a country that really has survived and kept the democracy, freedom in the Middle East, in an area really that doesn't much exist. And so, yes, we are very happy what happened. Of course, we always look for perfecting ourselves, and we look for the country to perfect itself also.
Do you believe that peace can be achieved between the Palestinians and the Israelis?
I believe that if both sides are looking for peace, peace can be achieved. At the end of the day, we are all children of one father, so to speak. We are all humans. We were all created by God equally. And it just has to be that they both want to make peace. I do believe that if they both want to make peace, peace can be achieved.
Do you have any thoughts? How can Jerusalem serve as a city or a place for peace among all countries or among all the religions?
Well, it is, in a sense, a city in which all religions are free to profess their rituals, profess their faith, keep their faith. The places of faith are open to everyone without any incident. Before Israel was in control of Jerusalem, and this is the truth and historically known, not all places of worship were open to everybody. It is only since Israel has been in control of Jerusalem that every faith can practice their faith. Every religion can practice their faith in their houses of worship, either it's a mosque or a church or synagogue, whatever it is. So yes, I do believe that Israel is doing its best to maintain that freedom of worship, and that's something that not many countries are able to maintain.
How do you evaluate, or do you have any opinion about the latest incidents where the Israeli soldier entered the Holy Mosque, AlAqsa Mosque? So UAE condemned these actions. What is your opinion?
Well, I'm not a politician, I'm a man of faith. The only thing I know about this situation is that the Israeli soldiers entered to maintain peace. Apparently, there were some hooligans or terrorists or whatever, or disruptors, I don't know what the right term to use, that they were disrupting the prayers at the mosque itself. And the Israeli police only entered to maintain peace, to basically safeguard the right of Muslims to pray at the mosque. And that's the only reason that they entered the place, not for any other reason.
My last question, how do you evaluate the Abraham Accords, and how you can see that they can evolve?
Well, I think the Abraham Accords are the best example on how not just two countries, but several countries can get together, can decide that it's time to make peace, it's time to make a normalization. In fact, it's not called a peace accord, it's called a normalization accord for that reason. Just to paraphrase the leadership of the UAE, when they were asked if this was a peace accord, and they said, no, it's not a peace accord because we were never at war with Israel. It's a normalization accord. And why is it normalization accord? He said, because it is normal for two countries who have mutual interest who can help each other, who lives in the same region, to normalize relations. And that's what the Abraham Accord. And I think that's the difference between this accord and the peace with Egypt and the peace with Jordan, where the peace in Egypt and Jordan was mostly between governments and not between people. And I think that's the fault of the governments themselves, that they did not, in a sense, translate that peace to become more people to people, where the Abraham Accord is a true people to people normalization accord relationship, companies to companies, groups to groups. And I have seen it since the day I have come, how this relationship is growing, is flourishing, and it's really creating great success between Israeli people, Jewish people, UAE people, Bahraini people. Of course, now Morocco and Sudan are part of that. And so, yes, it's a very promising accord. And I hope and I pray that this accord will spread throughout the entire region and see the benefit of this relationship, of synergy between all these countries that can contribute so much to the region, that they could change not just the region, but the entire Arab world, that I would say the entire world, that they could learn from this accord to respect each other, to accept each other, to work together for the benefit of humanity more than anything else.
This leads me to a question about your memoirs or reflections. When there was when Egypt started its peace process with Israel in 1970, how did you see, or how do you reflect this handover?
Well, I think there were very, very exciting moments. It was a moment of thrill, of exhilaration. It was a moment of, you would think that, the Redeemer is coming, so to speak. It was something that never in one's lifetime would think that it would take place, and yet it took place. And so it was the courageous step, the courageous vision of President Anwar Sadat and Prime Minister Menachem Begin to sit down together, to iron the differences, and to move ahead and create peace. I had the privilege also to be a co-chair of the United States Congressional Gold Medal for President Anwar Sadat, which we gave it to him posthumously just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And so as a recognition of his courageous movement, he was a lone person, in a sense, a lone warrior in that sense, a lone leader in the entire region. He risked his life, and unfortunately, he sacrificed his life to maintain that peace. And so it was a really great historical moment. I just wish that had translated into a peace between the people and not just between governments.
Dr. Ali Abadie, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your time. It was an amazing interview. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much to you.
Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.